So today, two big things happened. Dusty Baker was signed as the new manager of the Astros, and Kris Bryant, the whole service time grievance was solved, and he's going to be a free agent in 2 years instead of 1 year, which was kind of expected. But now this whole rumor of him being traded for Nolan Arenado has started to come up, or he might be traded for pitching while the Cubs try to acquire Arenado through different means. So as a Cubs fan, I definitely want to touch that and just kind of talk about it and see what really could become of this rumor, because there's a whole lot of different parts and rumor news and sayings and things here and there that need to be dissected to kind of figure out how this trade would actually work. So I definitely want to talk about it today. So you're probably thinking that's a lot of Arenado news in the last couple videos, but he's being talked about a lot, and obviously Kris Bryant being a huge third baseman as well, it kind of makes sense to just talk about these rumors as they happen. So I hope you do enjoy the video. If you do, thumbs up down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and enjoy the content. And as always, in the comment section, get involved. Let me know your thoughts on the rumors and the news that we talk about today. If you missed the last video, top corner, go and give it a watch if you missed it. And also, that's it. Oh yeah, social media links, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, they're down below. Go and give a follow if you haven't yet. So let's start with the kind of lesser news, the less exciting news. The Astros hiring Dusty Baker as their manager. So Dusty Baker is a 1-year deal with a 2nd-year option, which I guess kind of makes sense. The Astros are in a really weird spot right now with the whole cheating scandal, trying to find a new manager, new GM as well. Like things are just kind of all over the place for the Astros this offseason. So a 1-year deal with the 2nd-year option makes a lot of sense. If things go well, they keep him aboard. And when you look at Dusty Baker, he's been a manager for 22 years. He has crazy experience. He has almost 2,000 games won. He has 7 first place finishes and an NL pennant. Like, the guy knows how to win. He brings experience. He's just a well-established manager who knows what to do. So for me, with the Astros being in such a weird spot, I like this move. I think it brings in a manager who wants to win, who wants to change kind of the culture that's going on right now. You know, obviously he's going to try to put everything that's happened this offseason behind them and get them back on the right track. Like I've mentioned, Dusty Baker knows how to win. Like, he is a very competent manager and he'll get the job done. So for me, this is a good hiring for the Astros. I know they looked at a bunch of other candidates, but it seemed like this was the one that they wanted the most. He seems like the one that had the most experience. It just seemed like the right fit for the team. Like I said, Dusty Baker's won almost 2,000 games. There's not too many other managers who haven't, there's not too many managers who have hit that accomplishment before. The other managers that have are in the Hall of Fame. So I mean, this guy knows how to win. He's basically a Hall of Fame manager at this point. The guy is solid. Like, this is a good pickup for the Astros. I think it's going to get them back on the right track. And I just can't reiterate it any other ways. This is a good move for the Astros. This is the right move for them. And I think this is going to get them back on track. So Dusty Baker, good signing. You know, he's been with the Cubs, the Reds, the Nationals, the Giants. The guy knows how to win. He's been around the block. He knows what he's doing. This was a good move for the Astros, and I like it a bit. So I like it a bit. I like it a lot. So that's the short and sweet, like, whole deal about it. Obviously, it's tough to talk about managers because you can't really get behind the scenes and see how things are going here and there. But you know what? This was a good move for the Astros, and I figured I'd talk about it just because, you know, the Astros have been kind of in the news for really bad things. But I think for this one, this gets them back on track, and I think Dusty Baker's a really solid manager to pick up for them. So now we're gonna take the bulk of this video to talk about the Arenado Bryant rumors, because this is a huge rumor. So let's talk about this Kris Bryant Nolan Arenado deal, because Kris Bryant lost his grievance service time thing that was going on, so he becomes a free agent in 2 years instead of 1 year. And now there's these rumors that it adds more value to his trade, like it adds more value for him being traded and things like that for the Cubs. But for me, the big thing is, you know, the Cubs are looking at a very big free agency period in 2 seasons, because Kris Bryant, Javi Baez, Anthony Rizzo, and Kyle Schwarber all become free agents in the same year. And then the year after that, Wilson Contreras and Albert Almora become free agents. So to keep the core of your team, you have what, 6 players becoming free agents within 2 seasons. That's a lot. That's a big portion of your lineup. And I'll put the payroll of the Cubs up currently, because you look at all the contracts that they have, there's a lot of money being spent. There's a lot of money that are still, you know, in contracts. You have Hayward, you have Darvish, Hendricks. A couple players do come off the books like Quintana and things like that, but there's still a lot of money being spent. So I bring this up because the whole acquiring Nolan Arenado situation makes it very difficult because his contract is massive. Nolan Arenado's contract is huge. So how would this deal make sense? Because if you trade Kris Bryant, who's not making anywhere near what Nolan Arenado's making, how do you make that happen? So there's been some rumors that the Rockies would offer 8 or 9 million of Nolan Arenado's contract each season to make this deal work. But again, that's still a lot of money to be paid to one player when you still have your all-star, like you're one of the best shortstops in baseball, Javi Baez. You still have Wilson Contreras, one of the best catchers in baseball, Anthony Rizzo, Kyle Schwarber. All those players are going to become free agents. You still need to pay them, and you're going to have to pay them big contracts. And then you're still going to have Arenado, Hayward, Darvish, all those big contracts on the books. So for me, there's a lot of money being spent, and I don't think the Cubs are willing to pay that because the Cubs aren't willing to pay above the luxury tax, apparently. Their whole remodeling of Wrigley Field made things horrible. They went 100% over their initial budget. So they spent $1 billion on the remodeling of Wrigley Field when they really only wanted to spend $500 million, which is like, what? How do you go 100% over budget? So the whole money situation is really tight with the Cubs right now. They're going to be saving a lot of money so that they can afford to save those core players that I've mentioned. So again, this whole rumor situation to acquire Nolan Arenado, I think is just rumors. I don't think it's going to happen. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Again, Bryant becomes a free agent in 2 years. A player who can opt out of his contract in 2 years is Nolan Arenado. And Nolan Arenado wants out of Colorado. So if he has to stay there for 2 years and opt out of his contract, that might be the situation where the Cubs could probably then go after him in free agency and then let Kris Bryant walk. So what's the point of acquiring Nolan Arenado if he can opt out in 2 years if Kris Bryant becomes a free agent in 2 years? It's a very similar situation, and it's a bigger contract with Arenado than Kris Bryant. So the whole swap for Kris Bryant just doesn't make a lot of sense for me. There was also another rumor that the Rockies were looking at Wilson Contreras, Tyler Chatwood, and a couple prospects. Again, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me either, because attached to that rumor was that Kris Bryant would be traded for pitching. So essentially you would have to get rid of Kris Bryant, Wilson Contreras, and top prospects to get Arenado. The Cubs don't have that great of a farm system, so trading their top prospects would already make things a lot worse. Their best prospect is number 51 out of the top 100 prospects in baseball, so that's not the best. So Nico Horner would have to be attached to that deal. The next one is number 68 in the top 100. That's Braylon Marquez, and that's a lefty pitcher who they have high hopes for. So why would you trade one of your best pitchers in your farm system for a player that might end up leaving in 2 seasons anyway? So this whole top prospects things makes things difficult. Wilson Contreras is one of the best catchers in baseball. Why would you want to trade him? Tyler Chatwood, I understand that. The Rockies have had him in the past. You know, maybe they're just bringing back someone who's familiar. But then you got to trade Kris Bryant for some pitching. And it's like, well, can Arenado make up the run support that the Cubs would lose if they traded Bryant and Contreras? And I don't think he has that ability. Don't get me wrong. Arenado's stats are great. I'll put them on screen now. He's had a Gold Glove every single season he's been in the bigs. But then you look at Kris Bryant's stats, and yes, they're not as good, but they're still really solid. And he does have a really solid glove at third base. He can also play outfield. And then you look at Wilson Contreras, who can definitely put up offensive numbers, and he's still developing as a defensive catcher. I just don't see why the Cubs would trade 2 of their top players and 2 of the top players in their positions in baseball for just 1 player. So again, this whole rumor that Arenado coming to the Cubs, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And as a Cubs fan, it is exciting to try to get one of the best players in baseball, but if that means you're losing 2 of the best players in baseball, or even losing Kris Bryant, I don't know. I just don't like this trade rumor. I don't think it makes a lot of sense for the Cubs. I don't think for the Rockies it makes a lot of sense, especially if you're getting someone like Kris Bryant. You're getting someone maybe like Contreras and some top prospects. But if you're a Cubs fan, I think this is a trade you really need to stay away from, and you're really hoping that instead of spending money where it doesn't need to be spent, they're gonna be saving money for the next couple seasons so they can afford to keep those core players in Baez, Rizzo, Bryant, Schwarber if necessary, Contreras definitely. So there's a lot going on. I understand that Kris Bryant might get traded, and it does suck to see that happen, but I really think the Cubs need to hold on to their core. I think that's what's making them as good as they really are. If they can figure out their bullpen and they can figure out some of those holes that they do have, it makes a lot, like, then they'll be good. but they really need to keep this core, and I think staying away from Arenado is a good way to do that, and saving money is a good way to do that. So for me, stay away from the trade. Don't make this happen unless you can get a really sweet deal. Arenado wants out of Colorado, so I can see his trade value being lower than, you know, right now it's probably the best for other teams because he wants out. He's gonna have a little bit lower value, but I don't know. I just think if the Cubs are gonna go for him, it just doesn't make a lot of sense, and it's a move they need to stay away from. So that's it, guys. I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure you hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and you enjoy baseball content, and in the comment section, let me know your thoughts on this whole Arenado Kris Bryant situation. Do you think your team should go after Arenado? Do you think your team should go after Kris Bryant? You know, let me know in the comment section. I want to hear your thoughts. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button like I've already mentioned. And today I'll leave 2 videos like I normally do on screen, my most recent and also one that YouTube recommends you check out. If you've missed either of them, go and give them a watch. All social media links down below. Go and give them a follow, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace.